I'm so incredibly crazy happy to speak here at the Kinepolis at the major big screen. And of course at Devox for the first time. And the talk for today will be Error 404, Color Not Found. So, started introducing this. The content will be, we're going to start with an intro about this. You are in the intro right now. Then we're going to give an intro into accessibility, and then I'm going to talk a lot about color contrast. And then I'm going to combine some things about people with learning disabilities or difficulties. And the reason is this where tech started for me. I started in an organization as a developer for people with learning disabilities, like people with Down syndrome. And I'm going to talk about it because that's my passion. And there will be no two, like always. So I'm Dennie Declercq, and I'm president, IT coach, a developer, let's say programmer, I write code. I coach people at DDsoft, a non-profit that I also founder myself of here in Belgium. I'm a Microsoft MVP, but for people who are not loving Microsoft, yeah, I'm a Microsoft MVP, and I'm speaking at Java conferences also. But it's not your granddad is Microsoft anymore. I invented the hashtag Dreaming is Believing was all about my dreams to become a well-known world-famous speaker. And when you are that geeky that you start to have your own quotes on your own t-shirts, you are at the stage of, oh my God. I'm also on Twitter next to Dreaming is Believing with my Twitter handle at Dennie Declercq. So that was all about me, all about non-profit. We help, we consult people, we help people making the world more accessible. Tech companies, but also social organizations. And I'm a quite of a passionate people. But start talking a bit about accessibility. So and the question is, what is accessibility? And accessibility is people with all needs. And if I talk about all needs, I think about the normal needs and the special needs. They can access the internet. And they can access daily life activities. In fact, people, the same as people without disabilities, can access all areas. And if we're talking about people with disabilities, there is a variety of people with disabilities. For this talk, I scope myself to 3 kinds of disabilities. The first one is visual impairment. I'm going to talk about color blindness or color vision deficiency. And I'm going to talk a bit about people with learning disabilities. These are definitely not the kind of people with disabilities that you need to be in mind of. But for the scope of color and color usage, it will be very important that it's okay for those people although. So I'm starting with Wikipedia. So if you look on Wikipedia, what is a visual impairment? Then you see the following text. Visual impairment, also known as vision impairment, is a medical definition primarily measured based on an individual's better eye visual acuity. In the absence of treatment, such as correctable eyewear, assistive devices, and medical treatment, visual impairment may cause the individual difficulties with normal daily tasks, including reading and walking. Low vision is a functional definition of a visual impairment that is chronic, uncorrectable with treatment or correctable lenses, and impacts daily living. As such, low vision can be used as a disability metric and varies based on an individual's experience, environmental demands, accommodations, and access to services. The American Academy of Ophthalmology defines visual impairment as the best corrected visual acuity of less than 20 on 40, less than 20 on 40 in the better eye, and the World Health Organization defined it as presenting equity of less than 6 on 12 in the better eye. The term blindness is used for complete or nearly complete vision loss. So this talk is not only about reading aloud statements from Wikipedia. Luckily enough, not. But I did some emphasis on 20, on 40, and 6 on 12, because both statements are the half. So they are using different numbers, but it's less than the half. It's always less than the half, and the better eye. Nobody's eyes are perfectly equal in the view. Even a person with no vision difficulty, if they measure it, there will always be a slight or big difference between the left eye and the right eye. So if it's less than the half sight in the better eye, that means that the other eye as works is even less. So the total is less than the half. Really important if you think about this. So, and then we can also look a bit about color blindness. Color blindness, or color vision deficiency, is a decreased ability to see color or differences in color. It can impair tasks such as selecting ripe fruit, choosing clothing, and reading traffic lights. Color blindness may make some academic activities more difficult. However, issues are generally minor, and the colorblind automatically develop adaptations and coping mechanisms. People with total color blindness or achromatosia may also be uncomfortable in bright environments and have a decreased visual acuity. About this talk, I want to talk more. I even add an additional slide for this, because we need to question this stuff. And I'm going to question the following emphases. The emphasis, however, issues are generally minor, and the colorblind automatically develop adaptations and coping mechanisms. As I said, I'm going to question this. Is this still valid in an online world? Is online graphics the same as, by example, selecting ripe fruit? On the fruit, by example, you can learn adaptations to pinch it very slightly, and maybe if you pinch the banana way too hard, you know what will happen. But you will learn these adaptations. But if the world is moving more and more to online, more and more to virtual, more and more to a screen, is it still valid that the colorblind automatically develop adaptations? It's a questioning. I'm questioning this. I think the answer is no. So is the website always readable for those with color blindness? Is your business, is your information, is your commercial, your website always visible for those people? And so always means to, are the brands still recognizable in the digital era? Because the color is always also a very important part of branding of your company. So these are the statements on Wikipedia on color blindness. But how does it look? In color blindness, you have 4 categories, 4 big categories. And we're going to walk about both. We're going to show both 4. Going to show them. And here you see one of those is protanopia. And here you see a picture on the right, what a person with protanopia sees. So the question is, what is the real picture? So it looks slightly different, I guess. So that's here the example. Do you all still remember in your childhood days at school that you learned to color salt or sugar with you color that? It's the same experiment here. But that's the difference for the person with protanopia, and compare the difference between people without color blindness. And it's really important. By example, we are reaching the end of the year. This also with the famous festivities, like Christmas celebration. And one of the colors that they use a lot in the end of the year, celebrities, are, by example, green and brown. Okay, Christmas, green and brown, or this green and this brown. So let's look at what a person with protanopia sees. Yeah, is this green, brown? Is this brown or is this green? So if your application, software, website is built with these colors, maybe it will look shiny for people without color blindness, but it will not look that shiny for people, or will not be accessible for them. So tritanopia is the other famous form of color blindness. So here you see what a person with tritanopia see. So my question is, what will a person with normal vision see? I guess it's slightly the same. And here again, there are some really important colors, Like here you have the green and the purple who make less sense. And the last one, of the bigger ones, there are 4, but there are 3 really dedicated to colors. The protanopia, tritanopia, and deuteranopia has the matter with one or a combination of tints in the color. The last one you will see is about all colors. So this one is deuteranopia. And again, I shouldn't ask the question, what does a person without color blindness see? I guess you know it will be the same. And as said, then you have monochromacy. They see the world in lots of shades of gray. So this is a real example what people with color blindness can see. Of course, color blindness is the same as each disability or condition is always a spectrum. So even not everybody, for example, with deuteranopia will see exact the same bad the differentiations. Everything is always in accessibility and in medical conditions a whole spectrum. And as I said, I always going to talk about people with learning disabilities. I also going to talk about this. And people with learning disabilities or learning disorder or learning difficulty in British English is a condition in the brain that causes difficulties comprehending or processing information that can be caused by several different factors. Given the difficulty learning in a typical manner, this does not exclude the ability to learn in a different manner. Therefore, some people can more actually described as having a learning difference, thus avoiding any misconception of being disabled with a lack of ability to learn and possible negative stereotyping. In United Kingdom, the term learning disability generally refers to an intellectual disability, while difficulties such as dyslexia and dyspraxia are usually referred as learning difficulties. So, but what are those learning disabilities? In fact, in general, you can say that there's people with a less IQ, intelligence quotient. And if you do some measures, it's always difficult in a spectrum to calculate the average, but you can say people who are seeing less than 8, who having less than 80, 70 IQ quotient. So you can refer that to the knowledge that the child has when growing up. Without just about the IQ, the knowledge, nothing about the needs and also the importance to treat us as adults, of course. So, but what is the importance of accessibility and inclusion? Why am I here at this conference talking about all this color stuff? Because the world should be inclusive. An inclusive world should be the norm, should be the term. And inclusion is all people are living together in the same environment. So no people, specific people with disability are living in an institution and they need to ask everything to their parents or to their caregivers. That's not the world that we want to be. And when people depend on others to have access for their needs, they are excluded. So the opposite of inclusion, they are away from the party, they are not entering the daily life of everybody else, they are somewhere alone or in an institution. And if your communication is not accessible, then it leads automatically to exclusion. And with communication, let's give some examples as websites, apps, leaflets, commercials, banners, posters, graphics, and infographics. So that's really important that you include all those people. And I don't want to talk too much about COVID, but we need to talk about some things because COVID-19 increased exclusion. Because in the past, people who were digitally excluded were not automatically physically excluded. So let's combine both. Digital exclusion, your website or app is not accessible. So maybe you are not able to video conference, but maybe it's not needed if you have a kind of disability. Maybe it is, maybe not. But for example, not being able to search on YouTube for your favorite music or favorite trailer of a movie, yeah, this is a disability. But physical exclusion is not being able, for example, a building, to enter a building. And I'm not talking about people with physical disabilities, but maybe you need to have some app, for example, that like we have the COVID app. Here I'm not predicating anything pro or contra the system of if vaccines are mandatory or not. No, it's just about if you build an app, make it accessible for everyone. Nothing about if the app there should be or not. But here in Belgium, for example, the app was not running on each device. So even that means that even vaccinated people who are fully righted to enter could not enter due to the app was not working. But also it can matter of not being able to go outside. In Belgium we have at some time, I think it was in the second or the third lockdown, we have a night clock, a curfew. And the general in Belgium was 12 a.m. and in some cities it was 10 p.m. But if you don't know it, then maybe you should play safe and stay at home 8 p.m., even if it's not needed. And you can look it online on the website, of course, but if the website is not accessible, you cannot get those information. So this can lead to way more exclusion also in the physical world. So if you're not knowing what and when you are allowed to do, that's not okay, my friends. That's not okay. And here we are not all the charity talking and the activism on the right of people with disabilities. Of course, I have that activism part in me. I love it. My dad calls me an accessibility activist, like they are other activists. Honestly, for me, it's a compliment. My dad, I told about you. But there are also business side for you and your company. If your commercial for your business is not accessible for all people, then people can't buy your product. Just easy. An inaccessible website can prevent people to buy the product, to buy the service, and just to know that 1 or 3 men are colorblind or are on the color deviancy spectrum. And a lot of people with elderly has a visual impairment, so everybody will reach some kind of visual disability in their life. And even myself, my eyes are not good. I wear contact lenses, I'm not blind, otherwise I couldn't present. There are people who are blind who can present at conferences, that's not the truth, but I am not, but I'm not seeing that good. But even my eyes hurt on some digital or physical folders because the color contrast is too low, and I'm not colorblind. It's not okay. Hi there, Insta girl. Yeah, I'm really going to start with my public shaming at this point. I'm going to talk about some things who are not accessible. So a lot of modern influencers are making loads, bloating of inaccessible color, inaccessible content. But also it's not all about them, because should every business owner, like example, with a social business making some banners on canva.com, do they know all the stuff? And I will, yes, but you are the domain experts, you know. But too many Insta-style designs, like example canva.com, make it too easy to publish color inaccessible content. And you know there's a lot of ableism. Ableism means to be able to, in the sense of, it's a part of my batch, so yeah, I can do it and everyone will do it. That will be not needed, yeah, but my customers will find that information. Man, no, why should my customers have a form of color blindness? It's not possible. It is there. And with a more accessible design, they can reach more people. Like I am a person, I love tech, but I also love the less techy part. Like say the alternative medical stuff and the alternative therapies. I like a massage therapy, a good massage therapy. So there are some of them who making their banners, their websites, their commercials so inaccessible to color contrast. I am at the point that I don't hurt my eyes anymore for them. I look for another one who make their information accessible. Why should I hurt my eyes to book a session to relax myself? That's not the world. So I'm going to continue my wall of shame. I only say the organization of the top left and the bottom right. So it's the Belgian government and the trains. But the trains in Belgium are run by the government. This was a banner that is not mandatory anymore, face mask on the train. But this is not readable. What does this mean? Yeah, maybe it does have something to do with more mask, face mask, but maybe it's only from when it's busy or not, or where there are a lot of people in transport. What is this? Maybe you need a ticket. Or maybe you don't need a ticket in times of COVID. I don't know. The same of the corona barometer. This, in fact, is white text on a yellow background, so you need to study to make this, definitely. The other two examples, I'm not going to say the name where they are from, just out of respect, but it's a bit ridiculous, of course, otherwise I shouldn't show it. Those two are working on accessibility. The first one is working on people with physical disabilities, and the second one is working on people with autism. Look at their color contrast, even at this big movie widescreen. Spitty, although, and they are working in accessibility. I don't understand it, honestly. So how to fix this problem? It's really simple. You need to learn something about color contrast, and you need to test your UIs for color contrast. We all test our code. Now we're going to test our UIs on color contrast. And the good thing is they are really easy to use, free tools to test this. Okay. And there are also some theory behind this. And let's start with looking what the WCAG says. The WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. It's from the World Web Consortium, so the World Web Accessibility Initiative from the World Web Consortium, and about making the internet more accessible. And it's not only about web pages, it's also about apps and all digital stuff more and more. I'm not going to talk about the whole WCAG because it's for all the disabilities, all the different abilities, all the kind of phenomena that people can have. And this talk is a whole talk only about color and color contrast. So I filtered really a lot. I think it's not only 1%. I'm showing about the WCAG, but this has everything to do with color and fonts and color stuff. So what you need to know from the WCAG is that they work with 3 levels. Level A is the least accessible of both, but there's already something, it's not okay, but it's not no level, let's say. Then you have level AA and level AAA, and if your website matches level AAA, then you are doing a good job. So start with level A, what they are saying. Color is not used as the only visual means of conveying information. Indication an action, prompting a response, or distinguishing a visual element. Then you have level AA or AA, and it's a minimum that you can have for contrast. And there they say the visual representation of text and images of text has a contrast ratio of at least 4.5:1, except for the following. This large text only has to be 3:1 with at least 18 point or 14 point bold, and incidental and logotypes don't have contrast requirements. And then you have the AAA, so it's the enhanced, difficult word as a Flemish, enhanced way of contrast. Then it's the visual representation of text and images, so they are important, are at least a ratio 7:1, and then the large text need to be at least 4.5:1. Then you match AAA. The same for incidental and logotypes. And then you have the non-text contrast, but that's for things that are really important. For example, visual information like a graph, an infographic. So it's not only a logo or a citing, it's really important that you see this stuff before you understand the whole concept of the website, of the thing where the website is about. And that is about a color ratio of at least 3:1. And as I said, if it's only decorationally, there is no color contrast. So what we saw was 3 important ratios. But how to calculate the ratio? You can develop an algorithm yourself, or you can use test tools, but if L1 is the relative luminance of the lighter of the colors, and L2 is the relative luminance of the dark of the colors, then the formula is L1 plus 0.05 divided by L2 plus 0.05. And the 3 important ratios so much, so is 3:1, 4.5:1, and 7:1. So that's how to do so. If all your communication, your digital information, even printed one is even important, matches, all the colors are matching these ratios, depending on if it's large text or small text, that is color accessible. So it's not that difficult. But before we continue how to test this, we're going to question the WCAG. If you question Wikipedia, you also are allowed to question the WCAG. Oh my god. So the text that is part of a logo or brand name has no contrast requirements. But are logos still recognizable if people have really big difficulties distinguishing the color? And what about a too low contrast between the logo and or the text of the logo and the background? Is the company name, is the detail in fact still relevant? Does it make sense? Is it readable? So even here, I should be very conscious on logos, because you are building a logo for a brand, or you are building it as a consultant for your customers, for their brand. But if it's not visible or distinguishable, why do you need a logo? So all the theory about color, the why you should do it, how the contrast should be, but how are we testing it? So there are 3 tools that we're going to talk about. And there are 2 phases. The first is the design phase. When you start designing your application, or your website, or your brand, or your commercial, and then the Adobe Color Contrast Analyzer is a great start. And then it's already there, then you have the development and the testing. Then we can use the Microsoft Accessibility Insights, and there are also some nice tools on Windows I'm going to show. So let's start with the Adobe Color Contrast Analyzer for the design phase. So here is the link. It's easy, it's free. That's all what we want. Free and easy to use. And I'm going to hit here on. So you should see it. Yeah, so that is the page. And then how it works, I put it in English here. So let's say we can start making our brand, and we can say a favorite background color. And let's choose just, I call it dark red. I always call it DDs of dark red. It's my brand, my non-profit. So let's start, we're having some DDs of dark red. Okay, is it accessible with white text? Yeah, it is. We're having a 4.9. So, and here you can scroll further if you're passing for what you all pass. So, but maybe we don't want to have a white text, we want to have a yellowish. We are failing for the 1. So we are failing for 1 on the double A standard for a small text, for a regular text. We also can test against triple A. So triple A, then we even fail for all of them. So what we're going to do, let's say that the background is the most important of our brand. We are not going to play with this. So we're going to play with the foreground, with the text color. What can we do? Yeah, it will not be yellow. Okay, no yellow. Let's go more to a white-ish. Okay. Then not here for the triple A. Do a little bit more white. I'll make it a bit darker. So we are passing all of them. So the designers maybe will love those tools. So when design phase, you are building, okay, you see this is good. You are building your product, you are building a brand, or the whole UI for whatever it is. You can test, you can manage your color palette if you have also a good planning, like you have a planning of your other software and your software development, like your classes and your abstractions and your everything. So you can test with a great accessible color palette. But then it's already in production, or you are building, you need to still testing. And I love Microsoft Accessibility Insights that you can use in the develop and the test phase. So, and this is on different modes. You can even put it into your GitHub actions CI/CD pipeline. That is, by example, is not succeeding when in your GitHub action, when it's not succeeding, it is not accessible. You can all install it, but you can also install it as a tool in Edge or in Chrome or wherever you want. And I needed a demo, I needed an application. So you can test this not only on your own website, you can test it on all the websites you are publicly visible, so you don't need the source code. So you can test it, for example, with your computer. I'm going, because I already talked about Belgium, I said, why not taking the website belgium.be in English? And I already installed the tool. I click on FastPass. And then I go to needs review. And as I said, we are only going to talk about color. The tool tests way more. Also, if you have alt text, if it have area tools, if it's keyboard accessible, that tool is not only about color contrast, but I made the decision to give a whole conference talk only about color contrast, so it's also only these tools that are going to show, but accessibility insights tests on everything for accessibility. So here you see everywhere, it's failed, and even you can minimize this, and you see the points where it's not accessible. For example, the contrast between these headings is, the contrast is way too low. Here it's not accessible. So congratulations, I'm a Belgian, but I'm an accessibility expert, and my own country is not doing the good job. Okay, unfortunately, let's go back to the coronavirus example. I put it on English. Let's run it, the test. Let's go to the FastPass again. As I said, we're only going to talk about color today. Yes. So it works in the class, let's say. Yeah, you can say the navigation is not important. Well, maybe that is not this here is, maybe you can say not that important. Although I believe accessibility should be everywhere, specifically from a government. But let's scroll down a little bit. The buttons. So, do you want to request or test for a certificate? You have the buttons. Yes, not accessible, of course, because it's with border. Okay. Let's say we're guessing to click on it, and then we are going to the website of COVID Safe. That was the COVID app that we had. It's not there anymore. And let's just do the same URL just for fun. Click on testing, FastPass. Oh, it's already, let's say, failing everywhere. So normally I should have asked before this test, the demo, I need to ask, is there anyone here working in the government or working on the public services, the software? I hope I don't see hands, but please raise your hands. Okay, there's nobody. I hope they don't raising their hands for reasons. So, in fact, this really, yeah, pity, bit of frustration also. So, this is the Microsoft Accessibility Insight that you can develop in your test phase, that you can use in your development and in your test phase. And there also, oh, that's really an ugly slide. Why is it so out of the box? The demo, then you have in the ease of access tools on Windows. Here is Windows 10 still. You can play with the color filters. So I also installed this. I'm going to the settings. My desktop is in Dutch. I don't like to work in English for myself daily life, for reasons I don't know, honestly, if I'm speaking at conferences. And here you have the red, the green. You have the deuteranopia, protanopia, tritanopia. So you can you can set your screen as the same as a person with that deficiency will see. Like example, that yellow is less yellow. And here you can also change this. For example, I just put it here. And of course also the gray scale, so that's for the people with aromatosia. So here we can test how it looks if it's color accessible. And it's not for PowerPoint slides only, of course, it's for everything on your device. And now I need to go to settings again to toggle it off. ease of access, color filters, I put it off. Okay. So this is how to test for color contrast in different way. I come back to the beginning of this talk that my biggest passion always was and still is working for people with learning disabilities, like people with Down syndrome. And you will learn some very important stuff. As I said, it's really not stigmatizing. I'm just trying to have a framework. A lot of people, if I was starting about those people at conferences, in 2017 was my first international, 17 was my first international talk. A lot of people, developers, don't have an image of what a learning disability, what is an intellectual disability is. So it's less IQ. And as I said, as the child grows up, the IQ increases, if it's all quite normal. So you can say, look for a child perspective. As a child, understand it 100%, can use it, then accessible. It's not to exclude it, it's not to stigmatize, but to understand a bit, because we are not doctors, physicians into healthcare of people with learning disabilities and disorders. So, but here we come back to the WCAG, and we already learned some great things. Color is not the only way of conveying information, definitely helps. Combine multiple output form factors. You can use an image, and/or a word, or a word, and maybe audio text, like I really love text-to-speech I even have conference talks about text-to-speech, everything. It's also just recognizing exclusion. This comes from the Microsoft diversity and accessibility statements. So it's really which people you exclude. Know it, and look if you can work around it. But it's always help different options. So if you, in your UI, you provide different options, you already using the thing that is color is not the only way of conveying information. And how does this look? And I say, starting really simple from a child's perspective, red and green is really easy to comprehend. Red is danger, stop, danger. Stop, red. Green is okay, come, it's okay, it's safe. But those two colors are the most difficult ones to see for people with color blindness, because the red and green, difficulties with differentiation is the biggest one. So how we are doing this? We can start with playing with the foreground color versus the background color. So here you see different kinds of reds. The one may be more visible than the other one. The same for green. Like yellow, I do it here. Like yellow on red is, let's call it kind okay-ish. But yellow on that green tint is really not okay. So you can play with the tints. Okay. But can we do more? Of course, because color is not the only way of conveying information. Here we have images. And let's start. Here you see a check mark and a cross. A red cross, and the check mark is in green. Even if you are colorblind, maybe you will not see that the check mark is green and the cross is red. But the distinguishing between the background, the white, and the check marks and the cross is enough. So you will see the shape that has a different shape. So, okay, check, cross. Same of thumbs up, thumbs down. The shape is distinguishable enough. So the color is not the only way here of conveying information. And it's this time no shower at this moment, or it's okay, you can have a shower. So we are playing with different icons and iconography. The question is, can we do more? Of course. You can combining those images or those iconography also with text. So here you say confirm, cancel, no shower, you can shower, and good or bad. So here you are making it already a bit more accessible. The more options you provide to convey your information, the more people will get those information. But the question is, can we do more? Of course. I really believe in the Holy Tree unit. And for me, the Holy Tree unit is text, so displayed written text, color of using, and icons, or let's say icons and color, and then speech, like having a website which also a load was really important. You can build this. You can build different services with the load website. You can with the load applications. So, and the more things that you combine, the more accessible your product will be. So, this was the theory how to work with it, a little outro, and then there's time for questions. And then I try to provide, in my humble opinion, some answers. So I told you about accessibility and inclusion, and I gave you insights in color vision deficiencies, or also called color blindness. I showed tools how to handle accessible colors, how to test for accessible colors, and I taught how you can combine people on the vision difficulty spectrum or on the color blindness deficiency spectrum, and also people with learning disabilities, because you can combine those. So thank you, and I have 10 minutes time that you can ask questions, and then I try to provide some answers. If there are questions, just yell, because there's no mic here, and then I will recapitalize it for the movie, and then I will answer it. Is there somebody raising hands? I guess no. I don't see. Otherwise, just yell. Okay, just yell, just ask. You are asking? No, okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming.